The session here is for the site startup organization and management tips for the novice clinical research site. And you'll see that there are some slides really for the site that is interested in getting into research. But what I will do now is also add some tips from a very long kind of background and experience working at a site and then with sites at sponsor and CRO levels. I'll give you tips for sort of managing our sites, which many times includes training our sites, things that we don't expect to have to do, right? So let's review what our learning objectives are for this session. Let's identify components of a successful research site through benchmarking elite performers, identify the primary elements of business and market planning for a research site. I suspect that's one that we will not spend a lot of time on for this particular session. Discuss the importance of site GCPs and components of SOPs. We'll review that, and then kinds of tools that I found are really effective, sort of tips that are effective to get particularly our investigators kind of motivated. And then to discuss marketing, staffing, recruitment, contracting, and budgeting concepts key to research sites. So the examples are examples of existing programs at the time that this presentation was developed. They do not represent a collaboration with the presenter or producers of the program. And no proprietary information was used. As we know, the role of the clinical research site is vital in the success of a clinical trial. It takes only one site that is a high enroller that can pretty much throw your numbers off when it comes time to submit for an NDA. And a great example of that is for the KeyTech, is the KeyTech Sanofi Aventis scenario, in which KeyTech had already been approved. At the time was asked to do some additional safety studies, and so they did select over like 100 sites, many of whom did not have research experience. One of the sites enrolled something like 450, 460 patients, all within something like 3 months, some incredible amount that was just not possible. And by the time the CRO got out there, 50 patients had already been enrolled, and they realized there were some serious issues, documentation, informed consent issues, question about whether or not the investigator had really knew what she was doing, et cetera. And essentially what happened is in that study, for that particular study, the FDA threw out her data from this site, 450 patients right there, and then I think there were 2 or 3 other sites that they discovered were also just not up to the quality expected. And because of that, then the result was that the FDA had Aventis remove one of the indications that it had previously been approved for, had been submitted for.